Welcome to Headstones and Microphones, where we use AI to step into the past through a researched, first-person simulation of history's most interesting people. I'm your host, Calvin. While we've added some creative storytelling, our goal is to inspire your own study of these fascinating lives. Now, let's meet our guest. I am so incredibly excited for today's show. We are joined by a woman whose words quite literally changed the course of American history. For those who may somehow not know who you are you?
Hi, Calvin. I am Harriet Beecher Stowe. Most people know me as an author, specifically the author of a little book called Uncle Tom's Cabin, but I've always seen myself simply as a woman of faith trying to do what is right.
It is truly an honor, Harriet. Let's take it back to the very beginning. When and where were you born?
I was born on a lovely June 14th in 1811, right in the heart of Litchfield, Connecticut. It was a beautiful place to start a life.
And what was your given name at birth?
My parents named me Harriet Elizabeth Beecher.
Is there a story behind your birth name?
Well, my dear mother was Roxana Foote, and she named me after herself and her own sisters. But truly, in a house as full of children as ours, a name was just a way to make sure the right person came when father called.
I can imagine. What was your hometown like growing up?
Litchfield was a wonderful, intellectual place. It was known for its law school and the Litchfield Female Academy. There was always a sense that ideas mattered, and that the world was something we were meant to understand and improve.
And what was your family life like?
Busy. I was the seventh of 13 children. My father, Lyman Beecher, was a very famous congregational minister, so our house was always filled with theological debates and deep prayers. My mother passed away when I was only 5, which was quite hard. But my older sister Catherine really stepped in to help guide me.
What kind of kid were you?
I was quite a bookworm, I must admit. I was sensitive and very observant. While the other children might be playing loudly, you could usually find me tucked away in a corner with a book or scribbling down my own thoughts.
What were your biggest fears growing up?
Oh, like many children in a religious household, I worried about the state of my soul. But I also had a deep fear of the families I saw being torn apart. Even as a child, the idea of a mother being separated from her children was the most frightening thing I could imagine.
What did you dream of becoming as a child?
I didn't dream of fame, that's for sure. I mostly dreamed of being useful. I thought I might be a teacher, like my sister Catherine, or perhaps just write small pieces that might help people see the world a bit more clearly.
What were some of your favorite activities in school?
I absolutely loved writing essays. When I was at the Hartford Female Seminary, I found such joy in linguistics and the humanities. I think I won a prize for an essay when I was only 12.
That's impressive. What was your first job?
I became a teacher at my sister's school, the Hartford Female Seminary. Teaching was such a noble profession, and it allowed me to keep learning even as I was instructing others.
Was there a moment where you realized you were different from everyone else?
I'm not sure I felt different, but I certainly felt a deep, burning fire in my heart when I moved to Cincinnati and saw the reality of slavery across the Ohio River. Seeing those families in distress made me realize I couldn't just sit quietly. I had a perspective that I needed to share.
What's a decision that changed everything for you, but felt small at the time?
Joining the Semicolon Club in Cincinnati. It was just a little social group for writers to share their sketches and stories. It seemed like simple fun, but it gave me the confidence to keep writing and led to my first published book, a geography textbook for children.
What was your biggest break?
It was definitely when the National Era agreed to publish Uncle Tom's Cabin as a series of installments. I originally thought it would only be a few chapters, but the response was so overwhelming that it just kept growing.
What were your biggest struggles before success?
Money was always a worry. Calvin and I had 7 children, and a professor's salary didn't go very far. I was often writing at the kitchen table with a baby on my lap and flour on my hands, just trying to make enough to buy a new suit for my husband or shoes for the little ones.
Did you ever consider quitting?
Oh, never. I felt the Lord was guiding my pen. Even when I was exhausted and the house was a mess, I knew the story had to be told.
Were there any specific daily habits or routines that you feel are essential to your success?
I found that I had to be very disciplined. I would try to get my writing done in the mornings before the chaos of the day truly took over. And walking. I loved long walks. They cleared my head and helped me work through the scenes in my mind.
What job would you have had if fame never happened?
I would have happily remained a teacher and a mother. I truly believe that the domestic sphere is where the most important work of building character happens.
What was your life like before fame?
It was quiet, humble, and very full. We lived in Maine while I was writing the book, and life was centered around the church, the university, and our children. It was a life of plain living and high thinking, as they say.
How did relationships change after success?
Most stayed the same, thank goodness. My husband Calvin was always my biggest supporter. He actually encouraged me to use my maiden name on my books. But suddenly I was meeting people I never dreamed of, like President Lincoln or the Duchess of Sutherland in England.
Did fame bring happiness?
Happiness comes from faith and family, not from a book selling well. But it did bring me a sense of peace to know that I had fulfilled the mission I felt God had given me.
What was the downside of becoming famous?
The criticism was very hard. People in the South said I was lying and that I didn't understand their lives at all. I had to write a whole second book, A Key to Uncle Tom's Cabin, just to show them all the research and facts that backed up my story.
What misconceptions did people have about you?
Many people thought I was some sort of radical political firebrand. In truth, I was just a mother who was heartbroken by what I saw happening to other mothers.
What was your darkest moment?
Losing my son, Samuel Charles, to the cholera epidemic in 1849. He was just a baby. That grief was what truly allowed me to understand the pain of enslaved mothers who had their children taken from them. I wrote out of that heartbreak.
What past regrets did you carry that you spoke about?
I sometimes worried that I hadn't done enough, or that my words weren't powerful enough to stop the suffering sooner. But I tried to leave those regrets at the feet of the Lord.
Tell me about a time when everything went wrong, and how did you handle it?
When I first arrived in Brunswick, Maine, it was a drizzly, inexorable northeast storm, and we were moving into a deserted, dreary old house. I was exhausted, the children were tired, and I had to figure out how to make a home out of nothing. I just took it one crate and one chair at a time, praying through the dampness.
Did fame and fortune change your life?
It allowed us to be more comfortable, certainly. We were able to travel and eventually move to a lovely home in Hartford, Connecticut. But it didn't change who I was at my core.
Who had the biggest influence on your life?
My sister Catherine taught me that a woman's mind is just as capable as a man's, and my father taught me that we have a duty to speak out against injustice.
What was life like in your final years?
It was very peaceful. I lived in Hartford, right next door to Mr. Samuel Clemens. You might know him as Mark Twain. He was a wonderful neighbor, though he did say I liked to sneak up on people and give a war whoop to surprise them.
What were you working on in your career before you passed away?
I was helping my son Charles write my biography. It was a lovely way to look back on everything that had happened.
When and where and how did you pass away, and how old were you?
I passed away in my home in Hartford on July 1st, 1896. I was 85 years old. My mind had become a bit clouded toward the end, but I was surrounded by the things I loved.
What's a random fact about you most people have never heard?
I actually wrote a school geography book long before I wrote my famous novel. I've always been fascinated by how different people live all over the world.
What's the craziest rumor ever told about you?
Oh, there was a terrible uproar in England when I wrote about Lord Byron. I shared some information I believed to be true about his private life, and let's just say the English public did not take it very well. It cost me quite a bit of my popularity there.
What was your most unique habit?
I loved to sing ancient and melancholy songs in the drawing room. Mark Twain said I had a very touching effect when I sang. though I mostly did it for my own comfort.
What was your favorite food?
Nothing beats a fresh New England apple or a good hearty brown bread. Simple things were always the best.
What was your favorite book?
Aside from the Bible, which was my constant companion, I always had a deep love for the works of Sir Walter Scott.
Did you have any known rivalries?
I suppose you could say I was at odds with the entire system of slavery. Many Southern writers wrote anti-Tom novels to try and discredit me, but I didn't see it as a personal rivalry. It was a battle for the truth.
What's your funniest behind-the-scenes moment?
Meeting President Lincoln. My daughter said we were all ready to explode with laughter because it was such a droll and funny interview. He was a very humorous man, despite the weight of the world on his shoulders.
What was the most outlandish purchase you made?
I'm not a woman of great luxury, but after the book's success, we did buy a beautiful home in Florida called Mandarin. It was quite a change from the Connecticut winters.
What advice would you give people chasing success?
Don't chase success, chase the truth. Write what your heart tells you is right, and let the Lord handle the rest.
Harriet, this has been absolutely wonderful. Do you have any closing remarks about the interview or the stories you've shared today that you would like to share with the listeners before we sign off?
Only that I am so grateful to have had another chance to speak. To everyone listening, remember that even the smallest voice, if it speaks the truth, can move the world. Thank you so much for having me, Calvin. It has been a joy.
Thank you, Harriet. What an incredible journey through history. From the kitchen table in Maine to the halls of the White House, Harriet Beecher Stowe showed us the power of a single story. And that wraps up another conversation from Beyond the Grave. Thanks for joining us on the Headstones and Microphones podcast. Remember, legends may die, but their stories never do. Please help spread the word by sharing and following the pod.